And can you give the viewers a sense of how big is this problem actually?
You know, the judge in our last hearing, we're in the appellate court now, but before that, that judge made a comment, and he said, this is a societal issue. And I knew that judge got it right on the spot. He sees, and he read the briefs. So the answer to your question is, this truly is a societal issue. This truly is about fraud under the hood. And we now have at least one signature from 47 different states. So the point is, it's national and it's international in scope. And the theft of the taxpayers has to stop. People's balance sheets, their own personal balance sheet. I look at a person as being a business, right? If they understand that they were a business, then it would say, okay, I've got my income, I've got my expenses, I know how much money I've got left to spend, and then I have clarity because I'm looking at this through a balance sheet. The problem with most people, they don't even understand how to do that and why it's so important for them. Because if you know that you're being taken advantage of and you can articulate it, you're in a whole different category where you can stand in front of these ARB members and say, okay, fine. If you disagree with my math, Mr. or Ms. ARB person, show me why you disagree, which you can't because we know their databases are corrupt. And oh, by the way, if you don't do it as it is we're saying, I'll find 4 or 5 other people and we'll sue you. See, if you can get 4 or 5 people together, then all of a sudden the cost of suing isn't so bad. Then it starts to make sense. All of a sudden, okay, you know, I got 4 people. We total up the houses. It's $2 million. Yeah, is it worth $4,000 or $5,000 to file the suit? Yeah, it is. Right. Class action suits. What they say is we want people to have like-kind damages. Well, if you got a person with a $200,000 home or a person with a $2 million home, they would say that's not like-kind. I would completely argue because the thread is the fraud that's being created. Right. Okay. With that said, at some point, is a class action feasible? Yes, but here's the problem. I believe this is headed for the Supreme Court of the United States, which is where I wanted it to go right from the word go in 2016. But you have to go through this series of steps in order to get it there. Well, if you do a class action, you'll win. The facts are the facts. The facts are irrefutable. The fraud being committed is irrefutable. The problem is there's no money to pay the damages. So we may be in the right position at the right time to actually get this into the Supreme Court. We'll ratchet it up. I mean, potentially it could turn into a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the state of Texas, because the state of Texas, if they keep punting this, have in fact proven that the state of Texas did an end run around its own constitution, and that is a violation of the 11th Amendment under the U.S. Constitution under the Supremacy Clause. Now, the damages associated with that model, just in Denton County alone, will be treble damages on $1.34 billion stolen at Denton County. Now, you start ratcheting it up to the real numbers, and you can actually back into the math to see that this is actually a multi-trillion-dollar problem. You can't collect, right? So who's going to pay for Denton County? Let's say we win. Let's say the Supreme Court says, yeah, $5.2 billion, $6.2 billion, pick the number, I don't care. You win. You think the state of Texas has got $5.2 billion in extra cash sitting around to cover off Denton County? No. But you see, that makes my point. It's all bankrupt. That literally proves that it's a giant circle. It literally proves that the system is bankrupt. And if the system is bankrupt and there is no protection for mom and pop under the 5th and 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which is due process, because the system is rigged. When you go into an ARB hearing, they don't give a damn what's coming out of your mouth. They don't give a damn what evidence you're presenting. They just violated your 5th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Now you get 4 or 5 people that say, you know something, screw you. We'll go sue and we'll take you into the U.S. Supreme Court for violating those amendments. Now we've got some power. That's the whole purpose of putting this stuff out. And the more states that get involved, the more district attorneys that get involved, the more sheriffs that get involved. And in fact, there's actually a sheriff, a fellow who's running for sheriff. His name is Kevin Henry in Brazoria County. Do you know that he's running on the platform, Investigate the CADs? That's his platform for running. The guy's real. So the point of the matter is, the more people that get on board and understand what's going on here and how these laws all work in tandem and how the laws are being stripped and hidden from the taxpayers, are tantamount to RICO. They can't get away from it. They can't get away from the U.S. constitutional laws that they violated. And that's what's on this 10 pages. I mean, I've got the constitutional laws sitting in here. I've got the Texas Property Tax Code 2301E, 2301B sitting here. Every single law. And you can take this and replicate it across multiple states. They cannot get away from this. Nobody can.
Will we have access? Do you feel like some of these things are helpful to us that we could show some of our clients and homeowners and other agents?
Yes, and the clients, the realtors, because this is all hands on deck, but the realtors have to understand what's happening to them, and it's happening to their lives. The realtors are no different than mom and pop. So they earn their income, but then they take their income and they spend it on their houses. So everybody is hooked at the hip on this. Everybody is getting ripped off. I don't care if you're in a multi-million-dollar home or a $200,000 home. Sure. You're losing your money. You're losing your wealth because they, in essence, have created a land lease, a ground lease. That's what they've done.
Mitch, I want to go back to one thing. The word bankruptcy. Was it you that sent that video? I thought I saw that there was a county in Missouri that recently lost a case to an appraisal case and had to write. They owe 60,000 taxpayers refunds.
Yeah.
And that person was bankrupt. Please tell us about that.
That's just
is that relevant to any of this?
It's 100% relevant, and that is exactly the point of, okay, we'll go to the Supreme Court if we have to turn it into a multi-billion. That's great. We'll win.
In that Missouri case.
That Missouri case was the exact same thing, where the court came in and said, yeah, you stole the money from these people. Pay it back. But again, there's no money to pay it back. You're back to that circular argument. You're guilty. Where are we going to get the money to pay it back? Well, we have to raise the real estate taxes to pay it back? That isn't going to happen. So now they're all freaking out. Now the judge did the right thing. He's 100% right. Nobody bothered to look at the math under the hood that says, okay, great. This is a multi-billion-dollar judgment. How are we going to get paid? Lots of luck. It's Missouri.
Right. So what happened? Back up. What actually happened in that case? Was it somebody like you?
Yes.
That looked under the hood? And
yes. And it's almost identical to what we're talking about here. I mean, there's always idiosyncrasies, but it's almost identical in that the judge realized that the taxpayers were overcharged because the evidence that was presented showed that the CADs created fraud. Okay. He was able to connect the dots. The judge was right. The ramifications of being right are that now there's a multi-billion-dollar judgment against that district that can't be paid. And that comes right back to what I was saying about the school districts.
So what are they going to do? I mean, obviously, the guy said, we don't have the money to pay. So what are they going to do? Not tax? Because you can't ask somebody for money that you owe.
The answer is eliminate the property taxes effective immediately. That's the only answer. There is no other answer.
But these cities, I mean, these county cities, they need money to operate on their schools.
No
right?
problem. When you eliminate the property taxes, you eliminate the fat in the middle. In the case of Denton Central Appraisal District, they got 80 some odd employees. 80 will disappear and get knocked down to 8 because they become, instead of creating a subjective value, they can now only push paper that is objective. You get the fat out of the middle. All these real estate tax consultants, gone. All that fat, when people say, here's 30%, we're going to pay you 30% to go and argue our taxes, right. Gone. That's money left in the homeowners' pockets. Okay? Right. The system has to be destroyed because it's not a system. If the system is based on RICO, it's not a system. So what do? Well, you substitute what is quantifiable. What's quantifiable? Here, I go to the store, I buy a pen. I go to the store, I buy a chocolate bar. I buy 2x4s. It's quantifiable. It's a sales tax, right? It's not subjective, it's objective. And when you have something that's objective, it doesn't matter who it is. Mom and pop, who's maybe not be that sophisticated, they want to say, I want to go build a deck. Okay, well that deck would normally cost you a couple $1,000. Now it's going to cost you $2,300, but it's quantifiable. The problem that we're looking at here, this is like fighting a ghost because none of this, I mean, everything they've done is a straight up illusion. It's an illusion of legitimacy. They don't know any of these things. Can you imagine if I put Don Spencer on the stand, which I would love to do live, never mind the deposition. Pick a document, I don't care. He can't answer a single question coming out of any of these documents because he never read them. Yet this is from the IAAO, International Association of Assessing Officers, TAAO, Texas Association of Assessing Officers, Texas Property Tax Code, Hell, that property valuation study, he hasn't read it. Nobody in these CADs has read any of this stuff because they don't give a damn. Chris Luttrell stands up in front of the board and says, well, we're doing what we were taught to do. Great. Mr. Luttrell, I got a question for you. If you were taught to commit murder, does that make it legal? By the way, Mr. Luttrell, ignorance of the law isn't an excuse. And that comes right back to this document here, 10 pages.
Which again, what document again is that?
That's the violations document.
Okay.
So the point of the matter is, they're caught on any one of these. I don't care who you look at, the RPAs, the ARB panels, chief appraiser, deputy chief appraisers, they're caught. They can't get out of this. So the answer to your question is, yeah, the judge in Missouri did absolutely the right thing. Problem is, there's no math, and that proves my point. If there's no math to back up your mouth and back up the fraud that you committed, you got away with it. Therefore, the system is totally corrupt, and the only solution is eliminate the property taxes and put the power and the money back in the balance sheets of mom and pop. The house that they're working for should never be allowed to be stolen from underneath them, ever.